day, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of CME TV Interview Session, a program where we invite innovators, stakeholders, influencers in the blockchain, cryptocurrency, and fintech ecosystem to come air their views and the state of the ecosystem. So today we'll be talking about convergence of fintech and blockchain. We see a lot of discussions happening around these two sectors. So we want to have some discussions as well here. So I have with me a great innovator, a personality in the fintech ecosystem, Vincent Molinari, who is the founder and CEO of Fintech.tv. He is joining us from New York. You are welcome, Vincent.
Wow, Lee, welcome. Thank you for welcoming me, I should say, with such a warm welcome. Been looking forward to this interview and great to be able to speak with you and your audience.
Yeah, it's our pleasure to have you, and thank you for making our time to joining us. So let's move straight to the topic of the day, convergence of fintech and blockchain. But I would like to get a background about you, Vincent. Let me just get a brief about you and your background.
Well, I guess maybe I'm one of the older folks in the blockchain digital space. 30 odd years in finance, capital markets, technology. And we like to think about the modernization of securities law that intersect with the most innovative technologies. So we've run the gamut over the past 30, 35 years in really creating greater access to capital, wealth creation by utilizing the most innovative technologies at its time to facilitate that.
Interesting. So, let's go direct to the discussion. As a fintech leader and a believer of blockchain, I saw your profile, you also believe in blockchain. What are your thoughts about blockchain technology?
Well, I think blockchain represents perhaps the most meaningful change to technology innovation that we've seen in many decades. The ability to utilize blockchain in capital markets, in finance and supply chain identity, so many use cases is extraordinarily powerful. And I think part of that is really understanding what blockchain actually is and the power and the implementation to existing infrastructures, as well as new use cases that haven't been considered before.
Interesting. Okay, what would you say about some arms of the fintech being skeptical about blockchain? You know, so there have been some arm of this sector being skeptical about blockchain, thinking that blockchain is coming to take the work from them. And what do you think can be done to change that narrative?
It's a great question, Lee. And I think part of it is really demystifying blockchain. And I think it's exactly a lot of what you do with the show. And it's the education and awareness. It's bringing forward the stories, the understanding, the education of blockchain, and not just some of the early uses in cryptography around what were the early ICOs, but what is its role as a digital security? What is its role in creating symmetry of information, preserving records in an immutable fashion? What do we do around identity? How do we protect using blockchain? So I think so much of it is really to educate some of the people, and that's regulators, that's government officials, that's consumers, the general public, on what blockchain actually is. And going back to the early days, it was as simple as trying to explain the difference between blockchain and Bitcoin. So it is somewhat complex on the surface to many people. So I think it's all part of the education, awareness, and demystifying, as we'd like to say.
Okay, that's very nice and very good explanation about that, because it has really been a very hot topic when it comes to these two sectors, fintech and blockchain. So as the founder of a leading TV platform in the fintech ecosystem, what are some of the challenges facing this sector? How are you approaching towards solving those challenges?
Lee, I think, again, a lot of it is how do we put forward the narratives? Again, why you're doing what you're doing, I believe, why Fintech TV has taken this role, and why during COVID, and this digital transformation, there was greater acceptance and need for content that wasn't being spoken about globally. What is the even the definition of a digital asset versus a digital security? What was is a cryptocurrency versus an implementation in supply chain? So I think as you bring all of this forward, how do we educate regulators? Very important. Uh, and this balance between investor protection, consumer protection, and the advancements of technology, and making sure people aren't being hurt either intentionally or unintentionally by people's need and the flow of big dollars as they're coming. But I think as we're seeing much more of an institutional adoption now, when we see that corporately, I think we see great advancements for the implementation of blockchain, as we'd like to look at it as much more of an evolution into existing infrastructure versus many that would say it's a revolution. So I think it is becoming more accepted by established organizations, government agencies, and regulators, which lead to greater global adoption in this evolution.
Interesting. Before we draw the curtain on today's episode of CNE TV interview session, I would like to get your closing remark.
Well, look, I think it's incumbent on all of us, Lee, what you're doing, other organizations, to act responsibly and not to abuse this technology in the short term for short-term gains, because I think that could give us bumps and bruises that slow adoption and give other people who are not necessarily advocates today, who may be against it, more cause for pause. I think we have to look at global collaboration, sharing. We talk about interoperability, and really the power of that interoperability and the ability to go cross-border is going to be birthed out of mutual understanding and collaboration. So I think it's incumbent on all of us to harness the power of blockchain, to use it responsibly, and really to integrate it, I think, into our global fabric of inclusivity, of education, of awareness, of creating opportunity and leveling the playing field for so many that don't have the opportunity. So I do think blockchain represents this monumental technology that is at a point of inflection where we're all more aware that we are one planet, that we are one people, and this is a technology that can represent all of that and move the goodness and sustainable thinking and value approach systems forward.
Thank you very much. It has really been an amazing time out with you, Vincent Molinari, who is the founder and CEO of Fintech.tv. Thank you very much for joining us from all the way from New York.
Thank you for having me, Lee. It was a pleasure.
It's our pleasure too. Thank you.